absolutely. I think that Americans should have access to whatever sites whenever they want, seeing as how so much of our lives are run through the internet, whether it be for school or for work or just for personal enjoyment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody from like fifth graders to obviously college students. I use Google all the time. And people in the real world, because we don't live in the real world. People in the real world use the internet all the time too.
Yes, I think that America was founded on freedom, and this should be replicated with their usage of the internet.
Yes and no. I feel like internet freedom is, I mean, it's a way, like, in a sense, it's like freedom of speech, freedom, to express yourself, blah, 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 all those, like, constitutional rights, so yes. But then again, there is no really good way to control the internet, or set, like, guidelines or regulations and no way to enforce that. So, I mean, yes and no, I guess, yeah, it's a good way to be free. There's nothing you can do about it. But then again, it has its negative impacts, like, it's very harmful in certain ways to people and other things like that.
Yes, I do. I actually think that the internet has now evolved to become like a new voice for citizens, especially. I mean, now with like social networking in terms of Facebook, Twitter, I think people are now being able to have their voices be heard. Powerful politicians and of the like can now actually understand what people might be saying.
Yes, I do. I like having freedom to do whatever I want on the internet, even though sometimes it can be distracting.
I think it's really important to citizens of the United States because it lets us express ourselves to people that we don't know, and it lets us explore things that we normally wouldn't have the means to get to.
Absolutely, and that's actually why I think going to a $54,000 a year liberal arts school is kind of stupid these days, because you can get all the information you'd ever need on the internet.
Interesting.
Okay. Political, economical, and social freedoms. Well, I'll start with social because that's probably the easiest. I mean, today we have Twitter, Facebook. You can get into like people's lives. I mean, you can go online and see people's pictures, and those people that post things about every action in their day. So you obviously get freedom in that sense. Economical, GoDaddy.com. You got to pay to make your own website. So I guess in that sense, and I guess the freedom to post financial information like stocks and stuff obviously is like a freedom that people have in an economic sense. And political, I don't know, like WikiLeaks. I mean, didn't they release who shot JFK or something, or that kind of information? Or maybe it'll be released soon. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I think that this year's election was a great representation of that, with the use of advertisement and political campaigning within things like social media. For example, liking a Mitt Romney or Obama page on Facebook, or following their movements and campaigns on Twitter. So I think that in the years to come, that social media is going to be a real strong tool.
Yes, in that it allows people to discuss, it gives people access to each other and to sharing ideas and to debating ideas in a way that has been, as populations grow, as our lives get so busy, we can't do that. At the same time, I do worry about the aspect of, well, two things. The kind of cyberbullying notion, where you have people who are it happens in regular politics too, but people who are extremely aggressive and who are distracting, who know how to sort of take you off course. I think about Fox News, for just a random example, but how the conversation loses focus and becomes about moving back and forth on language and points, whereas people who are introducing themselves to these concepts may get excluded from that kind of discussion. It may also excite people to learn more and go on. And the other thing I worry about, as far as democracy goes, as far as creating greater freedoms, is that we are very excited about this technology, and it's fantastic, but everyone doesn't have it. And I think about places, I spent time in Senegal, and there are cyber cafes everywhere, and people have cell phones, and they have access, and yet, because of all sorts of economic factors, the electricity goes off it can just cut off for a short time, it can go out in a neighborhood for weeks. How, as you're building campaigns, can you maintain open access? That's a question. That doesn't say this is bad technology, because I do think it offers other things, non-routine.
I think it depends. It could be. It's just like any tools that could be used for liberating more people around the globe. But on the other hand, it could also be manipulated by certain, powerful forces. So, by the state or by somebody else. So, or by corporations. So, actually, there's actually this kind of discussion in China too, on, whether internet will bring about new civil society in China. But then some people would argue that this actually create infotainment. So it's another way of entertainment rather than, being a civil space or public space for people to express their views.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what about it? Okay.
Sopapilla, that's a Mexican dessert.
I did hear of it. I'm not entirely sure on the specifics of it. I do know that after it was passed, it was a lot harder for me to stream TV shows, which wasn't too good. Gotta get caught up with my programs.
No. No, not really.
Yeah, no one has. Okay.
Sopa what? I've never heard of those.
Didn't really know much about them. I only heard about them vaguely because I was looking at Wikipedia and I know that they were protesting it. So I guess if Wikipedia is against it, I'm against it as well.
Because it's too easily hacked. If like the government thing were going on, like we have votes online, it's just too easy for something illegal to happen.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that the internet is a great way to get your knowledge out there and get what you have to say out to the fingertips. Like it's right at the fingertips of anybody who wants it, especially with advances in marketing and computer programs. You're able to target specifically who you're trying to get, just specifically who your target audience is. And so through that means, I think that people who are trying to make a name for themselves, the internet is a great tool for them to get their thoughts across to people who they believe will vote for them. So yes.
If you look at actually the sort of new social movements, oftentimes they take use of social media.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the case with Arab Spring, and that's the case with color revolutions in Ukraine and other previous Soviet Union countries.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, oftentimes social media and the internet does play an important role in sort of creating this third space, this public space for people to express their views. But then, of course, I think more importantly is the consequences or after the movement. So what do we do? How do we reconstruct the society after the movement or the revolution? Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see how the government regulates internet. I mean, I think people are now understanding how much and how important and how big the internet has come to be. So it's going to be interesting to see what like implications that the government or rules and regulations the government might start having in terms of the internet itself. But at the moment, I think it's the most like open, free use of technology that people can use to like have their voice be heard.
Political rights. I suppose so. Yeah, it's a good milieu through which to organize and advocate ideas.
And it definitely has possibilities because we're here in the now. I'm not really sure how it would come about that, but I think it's something to look forward to.
Because the internet's like freedom of speech, because that's what it all comes down to. The First Amendment says freedom of speech, so on the internet you're just saying things. You can't really do anything about that.
Maybe in some cases. Obviously, I'm not for people buying counterfeit or contraband or sensitive information over the internet, so I obviously think that should be limited and have some, what's the word I'm looking for, some regulations on that. But other than that, I mean, I like going on Google and answering my accounting questions by typing in the question. So that should not be regulated now.
I don't think so. I think that the internet is, free space and unmarked territory, and I don't think it should ever be, monitored. I think that's kind of what it was created for. When Al Gore created the internet, I think that's what he had in mind, free space to do what you want, speak your mind, kind of, just a little America,
Too free is a kind of funny word, or funny little phrase, I guess. I don't know, it's hard to imagine something being too free, but then again, like I did mention in the beginning, there is no censorship or way to regulate the internet, and as a result, there are a lot of harmful impacts to people who discriminate and prejudice and stuff like that. So yes, I do, but unfortunately, it's not plausible at all.
Okay, thank you.
Open it up.
Open it up?
I think
Okay.
we do. I mean, I think there are lots of groups trying to restrict it. There's a lot of restrictions coming from questions people present as looking over potential terrorism, things like this. It certainly crime finds its way no matter what, whether it's pencil and paper or telephones. But also the idea that we can create a completely peaceful bubble in the United States is a failing that we in the U.S. sometimes have, the belief that we can protect everyone from bumped knees and from attacks. And we have to, the more we put ourselves behind walls, the more dangerous we make the world for ourselves and for other people. And I think we have to keep things open. And I like the fact that we can share music, that I can contact my friends that live in Senegal and that live in Europe and that live in Asia, and we can have Skype conversations and learn not just about friendship, but what's going on in their universities, in their places, their families. That makes the world smaller in a better way, I think.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is the internet a liberating technology? Yes. It has liberated the process of many artists and people who create, and how they can share their work with such a wide range of people with just a click. Also, with the appearance of social networks, it's now easier than ever to express your opinion to a number of people. Not to mention, now it's easier than ever to find all sorts of people, places, and things on the internet. There's definitely been a whole new sense of economic freedom that has been brought on by the internet. So many jobs are created on the internet every day. There's millions of people that create music, video content, films, and websites. And today they manage to make a living through ads. Companies used to do their advertising through old sorts of media like newspapers, but now they do their advertising through individuals that create on the internet. So there is freedom, but is there safety? No, definitely not. Because now some websites have access to our bank accounts, scam websites are very common. So even though this economic freedom is created, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's safe. Meaning that if an individual decides to take their money on the internet or take their money from the internet, they need to be very well aware of the dangers they might put themselves into. Third, political freedom. First, I would go on to say yes, there's definitely political freedom. When I go on Facebook or Twitter or any other social network, I see statuses of all of my friends commenting on political issues and political parties, and I see all of these positive and negative comments. But political comments tend to be very, very influential and not always fact-based and not always checked. And with such a large chunk of the youth population being on the internet, their political views are in danger of being easily altered by false statements that they see. A lot of political systems today are treated very much like celebrities. They try to avoid bad press and reputation. And because information spreads so fast on the internet, Any controversial subject that hits the headlines of the internet is going to get bad press. I think that if enough people engage themselves in speaking out and can make a difference in the change of their political rights. Do I think the internet is too free and requires more censorship? No, I don't. Once you've given people so much freedom, take away any part of that, they're bound to revolt back. So that's just never going to work.